acknowledging that we are, I think, sitting in a very difficult moment when we look at business, when we look at leadership, when we look at the future. I'm sure you know the Great Resignation, right? People leaving their jobs. That we saw a lot, earlier on this year, last year, because of the pandemic. Quiet quitting, right? The idea that I'm not going to give more, I'm just going to do the bare minimum to keep my job. I'm not going to go above and beyond. I'm not going to give extra energy. And I think underneath that, something we're going to explore as we go on, is this idea that I'm not going to give that for an organization that doesn't give that back to me, right? So that we have quiet quitting. We know that millennials, our current leaders, our future leaders, they lead all other generations in active disengagement. 55% of millennials are actively disengaged. And this is a big deal because it's not just disengaged, it's actively disengaged. And we know that millennials and Gen Z, the generation coming after millennials, will make up 64% of our global workforce in 2025. So, we were talking about generational gaps, building the bench, future leaders, there's that whole challenge. And then I think what's really difficult is that the pandemic really was the shake-up moment for our world and maybe even our view of work. Raise your hand if you felt that, because I certainly did, right? It's like work is no longer our sole identity if it was before. And no longer is the idea of working more than 40 hours a week or working and getting to a place of burnout, is that at all attractive? It's almost like work is now the vehicle for freedom. Work is the vehicle to having the life that we want to have. It's not our life. And so now here we are, this is the world, and we're looking at the future, and it's how are we going to thrive in the future, right? And I think what I'm exploring in this book is the idea that leadership the way it is now, business the way it is now, the way we're thinking about challenges now, it's not working. And if we want to have a different world, if we want to have a better world, which I think we do, we have to be willing to think about it differently. We have to be willing to challenge the way that we think about leadership, the way that we think about business. And I think what's missing is this thing called human leadership. And I would say human leadership is really leading from your heart. It's considering that the people that you're working with, the people that you're communicating with are human beings who have real lives and who have real things going on in their lives, and really connecting with our own humanity so that we can connect with the humanity of other people. And that's really what our conversation is going to be about today. How do we do that? I know that not everyone was here when I spoke in 2018, and a lot has changed since then, so I'll just give you a little bit of context about my journey and a little bit of background, because I think that will really set the stage for our conversation. I can really relate to the challenges that we have in our working world today, because I had a lot of those challenges in building my company. I never thought that I would be the owner of a cleaning business. It's not what I saw for my life. I went to college at the University of Florida. I studied finance. I thought that I was going to work on Wall Street, and that was the plan that I had for my life. And at 19, I was shopping with some friends. The story goes that I fell in love with a pair of jeans that I absolutely could not afford. They were $99. And I was always very entrepreneurial. My grandparents immigrated from Palestine, and when they came to the States, they opened a motel and a restaurant. And I think I was really always inspired by their example and their work ethic, and I think maybe that inspired this entrepreneurial spirit in me. So anyways, here I am with my friends. I want these jeans, and my first thought was to put an ad on Craigslist to clean a house. And I charged exactly the price of the jeans. It was like, I'll clean your house for $99 plus tax. I mean, it was like to the penny. Of course, the first woman that hired me, she had like a mansion. It was like 5,000 square foot house. I had no cleaning experience. It went horribly. She paid me, but then the next day, she called me and said, hey, I have an idea. How about I teach you how to clean? and then I'll hire you to clean my house every week. So I was that bad. My first client had to teach me how to do my job. But at that time, at 19, that wasn't going to be my life. It was just a side hustle. It was a way to make money while I was in school and save up for Manhattan, and that was really what my vision was. And long story short, when I was 21, right before I graduated, I got an opportunity. I don't even know if I should say the word opportunity. It was not exactly an amazing opportunity to clean 800 empty student apartments that 4 college students had lived in for 4 years, and they moved out. And I know you probably just ate, so I will leave it at that. But that's when it was like, okay, I need to hire people. 800 apartments is a lot. And so I hired a team of 60 students. You heard in the introduction that 75% of that team quit. And that really changed my life. It inspired this obsession in me with wanting to learn how to be a leader and wanting to learn, even more than that, how to build a company where people really wanted to be. And I think I was so excited about this challenge of, but how do you do that when the job is cleaning toilets? When someone's job is to literally scrub a toilet, how do you make that person feel engaged and inspired and like they matter? And that challenge is what led me to not move to New York, not pursue a career in finance, and grow that company over the next 14 years. We sold the cleaning side of the business in May of 2021. And today, my team and I focus solely on leadership development and helping teams and leaders really elevate their culture, elevate their team dynamic. And over the last 8 years, we've worked with hundreds, maybe even thousands of organizations. So I think I understand the challenges of today because every single thing, like the Great Resignation, was happening every day in my company. Nobody wanted to clean. We had to figure out a lot of these challenges early on in the business because if we didn't figure it out, the business wouldn't have survived. So that's a little bit of the context. Today, I want to focus on 4 key things that I think are going to be really, really important as we look to the future. And I know that everyone in here has a different role. You're in a different industry, maybe different ranks and within an organization. And I just want to say that everyone in here is a leader. No matter what your role is, we all have a part to play in this and an opportunity, I think, to really build a better world. And so as you're listening to this, maybe think about your own role within each of these 4 pillars. Also, at the end of my session, I'm going to give you my email address, and my team is ready. They're on standby. If you email me after today, you will get a PDF of everything that I'm sharing and a summary. So I just want you to focus on staying present and not feeling like you have to take tons of notes because all of that will be coming to you. The 4 things I want to talk about that I think are really important, especially for the rising generation. Passion. I think people want to feel really connected to their work. They want to feel like they're working on something that they feel passionate about. Growth. I think people want to feel like they're growing financially, as a human being, as a leader, right? Freedom. I think freedom is definitely something, especially since the pandemic, that is really important. Freedom of how we do our work, where we do our work, when we do our work. And then I think feeling valued, feeling cared for, feeling, like I matter. So these are the 4 ingredients that we're going to be talking about today. So let's start with, look at that, I don't even need the note cards. Well, we still have an hour, so we'll see. Probably need them a lot. Okay, so let's talk about passion. So if you can think back to when you were in school, I don't know, maybe some of you are still in school, something that I remember hearing a lot is you got to find your passion, right? You got to find the major. You got to find the thing you're excited about. And now that I'm about to be 35, I think back and I'm like, wow, I kind of wish that wasn't what I was told. Because the whole time I felt like I was looking for this mystical unicorn. What is a passion? How do you know when you found it? What does it feel like? What does it look like? Where do I freaking find it, And how do you even begin to know what to look for when you haven't experienced life? So what I wish someone would have told me was, in the first part of your career, look for all the things that are not meant for you. Try everything. Be open to learning from every experience. And it's not so much that it's important that you find the exact thing you're meant to do. It's important that you learn about yourself, and over time you learn your strengths, you learn the things that come naturally to you, the things that you're motivated by, and your passion can be in so many different places, right? But you need that period of learning before you get there. So I think what's happening right now when we look at our world is you think about all these rising leaders, right, who are going to be 64% of our workforce in just a few years. And we're coming in and we're like, we want to find our passion. And if we work in a job and we don't feel that spark, we're now looking for another job, or we're quiet quitting, or we're deciding this isn't what's meant for us, right? But what we really need, I think, is someone to teach us. We need this almost level setting of expectations that, hey, this probably isn't your dream job. If this is your first step out of college, or your first or second or third job in your career, or maybe even later in your life, there's a good chance this may not be your dream job. And I can really relate to this because in my cleaning company, it was not my dream job. There was nothing dreamy about waking up and talking about Windex. You know, I had to learn to find a way to use my talents and a way to become connected to my work in an environment that I would never have classified as my dream job or my passion. Meg Jay, one of my favorite authors, she wrote the book, The Defining Decade. And in the book, she talks about this concept of building identity capital. And she says the first part of your career, probably like the first 10 years, is the most important time to build identity capital. Identity capital are all the experiences, all the people that you can learn from, all the things you learn that aren't meant for you, all the things you learn that are. And all of that adds up to become the currency that allows you to get the things that you want in your career later in your life. So if you don't have a lot of identity capital, you're gonna have a harder time in your career. But the more identity capital you have, the better chance you have of building the career that you really want and that is really meant for you. So in our company, in Student Maid, we knew this is not gonna be someone's dream job. Like, we can't call it that. We can't pretend that someone is going to find their passion here. And what we did instead is we framed it as a chance to build identity capital. We said, you know what? You're probably not gonna like your job. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It's not fun to clean toilets and to vacuum. Maybe for some people, and those are our special friends in the world, and I love you for that. But for most people, not really. But here's what we can give you. You're gonna meet a lot of people. You're gonna get to talk to a lot of our clients. You're gonna learn how to think for yourself on the job because no one's gonna be over your shoulder. You're going to learn problem-solving skills. We taught workshops where we would find things that people wanted to learn about. It was all in-house, and we would teach these workshops. And that became the job that we offered, a chance to build identity capital, and you gotta clean toilets while you're doing that. Our culture of learning really started because I was learning as a leader. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm learning this, I wonder if the people on our team would wanna learn this. I remember the first time I went to a networking event, I was so nervous, and I had to introduce myself, and I thought, everyone's gonna have to do that someday. You know? And so I went back to the office and I said, hey, went to my first networking event. It was really awkward. I learned how to introduce myself. If anyone wants to practice that and practice like your elevator pitch of, who you are kind of thing, meet me at the office and I'll get pizza. And like a lot of people showed up. So then a few weeks later, I read a book. I learned a lot. I said, hey team, read this book. If you wanna learn my takeaways, come to the office, I'll get pizza. Lots of people showed up. So then I'm like, it's definitely the pizza. So I had a different, here's the thing I learned. Didn't say that we had pizza. Come if you want. Everybody's there. So it showed me that people had this hunger for learning. Over time, we developed a 4-hour workshop. Very, very simple. We have everyone do the Strengths Finders assessment, which that link will be in your resource. We had everyone do the DISC behavior assessment. We had some methods for giving and receiving feedback. We taught the steps of listening, things that we produced internally and taught internally. And we made this 4-hour workshop. And we decided that that was going to be the person's first introduction to the company. Before they learn how to dust, vacuum, anything, we're going to invest these 4 hours in their identity capital. And if you could just imagine, right? You're 19, you get this job, you think you're gonna be cleaning, and your first experience is 4 hours of investing in you. You know? So what happened is that word spread, and we would have students apply, and they would say, is this the place where you learn how to become a leader? And we would say, yes. And are you aware that you have to mop? There's a catch. And so that's what it was. We became this place to build identity capital. And I would get challenged a lot because the cleaning industry is notorious for turnover. Our turnover rate average for the industry is 75%. So other business owners would say to me, why would you invest all this time, all these resources into people who are likely to move on? I said, okay, that's, you invest in people and they leave. But what if you don't invest in them? What happens then? What if you don't invest in them and they stay? Someone, I don't know who said that, and I'm like, that's brilliant. What if you don't invest in them and they stay? Oh, right? And I was so focused on retention. Like, we just gotta keep people. And over time, I started to realize that was really selfish. My role as a leader is to help people get their wings. And it's up to them where they wanna use those wings to fly to. Maybe it's to a different position in our company, and there are certainly people in our company who are still here today, 11 years, 10 years. In fact, the parents of Rachel Rowan, who's been with me 11 years, are here. Where are you? There you are. I love you. So some people use their wings to stay in the company, and some people use their wings to leave the company. And my job as a leader is to support whatever decision that person makes, right? And a really interesting thing happened. When we stopped focusing on retention and we started focusing on helping people build as much identity capital as possible, what do you think happened? People didn't want to leave. So are you giving people the chance to build identity capital? I also think we need to make a shift. It's not passion that we're looking for. It's something called our sweet spot. Our sweet spot is where our motivation and our talent meet, okay? It's a place where you're excited and energized about the work that you're doing, and you're naturally good at that work. And we believe on our team that if you can be working in 70% of your sweet spot, 80%, you're gonna feel really fulfilled in your role. But in our company, we couldn't give everyone the chance to work in their sweet spot. So what we did is we gave people the chance to discover what it was. We've talked about Strength Finder. Raise your hand if you've ever taken that assessment. Wasn't that assessment powerful? To be able to articulate your strengths and be able to find words for the things that you're good at, right? And then to start to look at how you can bring those strengths into so many things that you do. There's another assessment that is not really well known in the business world, and it's called the M Code. It stands for the motivation code. And I think it's the missing link. The M Code asks you to think about 3 life experiences where you were the most motivated, at work, outside of work, whatever it is. And it takes your answers and it finds the common thread, like what existed in all 3 of these scenarios that made you motivated. So my number 1 motivation is meet the challenge. And now I get it. I'm like, why do I set myself up for these ridiculous things and these, because I'm motivated. The more ridiculous it is, sign me up, right? But I've never understood that about myself. And so here's why it's powerful. You can be good at something, but not excited about it. Have you ever had that? Like you're good at it, but you don't want to do it just because you're good at it. So there's a missing link, and that's motivation. It's where our motivation and our talent meet. So those assessments will be in the resource. And maybe that's a starting point. Have everyone on the team, or even yourself, take that assessment, start to find your sweet spot, and start to think about how can we use that sweet spot to really be more connected to our work. And you start to see that it's not a passion you're looking for. It's all the chances that you have to really live in that sweet spot, which could happen in any role, in any industry, in any organization.